Eat the food. Where's the food?
Yeah, that's okay. Now I can see. Yeah, from Napoleon Dynamite. I made that art and I hung it in the kitchen for when the kids would, I would just point to the poster and be like, eat the food.
Good reminder.
Yeah. I talk a lot, and if I get started talking, I won't be able to stop talking. So you tell me what how can I help you accomplish your mission?
Do you listen to the Rainforest podcast?
I haven't been. I'm only familiar with the logo because I've drawn it on murals and I've drawn it in graphic recording. So when I saw it, I was like, oh, I know that. I know that logo and I like the logo, but I don't get to listen to as many podcasts as I would like, unfortunately.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, so I'm one of the hosts. It's a podcast organized by some people in the community, and so it's open for people that want to be hosts. So there's not just one host. I'm one of them. And the purpose of the podcast is to focus on people that are making changes that are driving innovation in the Alberta ecosystem, in the Alberta community.
Wow.
And for me, I like to look at who people don't typically invite as guests on the podcast. It's very common to call on entrepreneurs, like the startup entrepreneurs and the big leaders of, say, the support organizations like Platform, Thin Air Labs, just those communities that are supporting. Some people are more visible, in the community, right?
Yes.
So I'm always looking for what's not represented yet. And last time I hosted someone that was talking about just how design is innovation. So we just zeroed in on how design should transcend disciplines, and everybody should be trained in design thinking.
Wow.
So for your episode, what I'm thinking about is art as innovation. Like that would be like the overarching theme. And I just want to hear how you would like it to go. Like it's your thing. I'm just gonna ask prodding questions. And so what do you feel about that?
Well, it's magical. It makes me feel good, because sometimes it can be a challenge and I've experienced this watching other creatives, like before the pandemic, back when oil prices were going down. I remember being at a theater on First Street between 6th and 7th Ave. I think it's called the Grand, and it's a historical place. But I remember going to an event called ArtMatters, where there were creatives of many different varieties. So they were dancers, musicians, writers, visual artists, all of the supporting theater companies, and they were all sort of having an open space and talking about challenges that there were within Calgary at that time for all artists. And I can relate to that because it has been a challenge to monetize creativity. There can be sometimes a surprisingly ardent, heated discussion between design and art. Like when I was in the Alberta College of Art and Design, I didn't know that the design side of the school, the design faculty, which consists of photography, design, and media arts and technology, had a sort of philosophical divide against the fine art side, printmaking and painting and sculpture and jewelry and these things. And if I had to distill it, well, the question to get out of first year into third year onto the design side was an essay question, which was, what's the difference between art and design? And I've sort of, with my life experience, been working on what that difference actually is. It would be fascinating to hear what people think it is. But at the time then I said, well, it is the either presence or absence of objective criteria versus subjective criteria. On the art side, it seemed like the artists were telling the designers that you've sold your soul for money, and the designers were tacitly implying something like, it's rich, it's hypocritical for you to condescend to the designers when you're always campaigning for subsidies and funds to support the kind of art that you want to do, but you don't even feel a measure of accountability to create things that the blue collar, uninformed people don't need to understand, but they still need to pay for. Like, so I was like, you know, the blue collar people on the end of a shovel just want pictures of like mountains and animals, and some of the art schools doing something that nobody understands, but they don't feel any obligation to make something that people are paying for. So anyways, it's not to put too sharp of a point on it, but
that's an interesting perspective.
Yeah, but in all the years since I've been out for, you know, over 16 years, it feels like a couple of decades, to hear you talk about the importance of visual communication or design thinking, and I rub up against a lot of job descriptions like art director, creative director, facilitator, and these things, and I'm becoming increasingly reluctant and careful about which titles I take on, because there's a lot of implied skills, and mostly the managerial skills, the interpersonal skills, the team and culture building skills are the ones that I see and have a healthy respect for, because I'm obsessive compulsive. I like to have things be the way that I want them to be. It's a burden, an ongoing burden, to secure purchase orders, to secure time and money sufficient to make things be the way that I want them to be. Occasionally you'll get a purchase order that facilitates this thing called design thinking, but in truth, sometimes people say, oh, you say design thinking, but what you really mean is flat rate and have it done by Friday. Because I can tell you that design thinking to me means unknown unknowns. Like, we don't even know what we don't even know. And I'm like, and I'm telling you right now that that's expensive. It's going to cost you a lot of time, and it's going to cost you a lot of money. So I'm kind of a visual person, but when I look at facilitators and I look at culture, nurturers, and true disruptors and innovators, I feel like the heavy work that they're doing is that of, and I've seen, you know, Alberta Health Services, where I work right now, they have a design lab, they call it, and they design the design lab. Actually, I could show you some artwork.
Yeah, I was at the conference.
Oh, were you really? So which workshops did you go to during the middle? Maybe I got lucky. Maybe I went to some of the same workshops you did in the middle of the day. You know, there was the same.
Well, I attended the plenary sessions for sure.
Yeah.
The first one on was it Wednesday, Thursday? Yeah, Wednesday, Thursday. I forgot the names. The one by Nahim, I think.
Yeah, look, I've got
I attended that one.
I've got the graphic recording for Nahid.
Yeah.
Which was amazing.
Yeah, he was. He really was.
Yeah, here, look at all
and I like the image he shared about keep your coins, I won't change. Yeah. I love that.
Yeah, I've got that right at the end of the doodle here. I'm just trying to find my camera source so I can switch it and show you. There.
Oh yeah. Wow.
Right there in the bottom right hand corner. Yeah, keep your change.
Dying without privilege. Yeah, that was the title of this. Wow. When did you make this? While he was talking?
This was the live drawing that I did while he was talking.
Oh wow.
That's not entirely true. Actually, I will tell you that what happened was, literally while I was doing this drawing, my son upstairs plugged in his iPad, and the outlet shorted, and it created a grounding problem. It blew the breaker. I lost power. I lost my connection. So I was upset. It was a total disaster. But then I talked to Josh, who was driving the slide deck there at I4, and he sent me a recording.
I see.
I was able to spend more time with this than I would live. So it worked out because I couldn't in real time, I wouldn't be able to keep up to the top 10. But because I had a recording of it, I was able to sort of like pick through it more carefully. So yeah, what other I guess during the day, which sessions did you go to? I'm just trying to see, maybe we fluked out.
So I went for where did I go for now? Okay, maybe I should just check my agenda again. I can't remember what they are called. Okay, I attended the one about pictures.
Oh, did you? The guy
picture storytelling, something like that.
The Mama in the Meantime?
No, not that one. The one on Wednesday by Elisa. I think her name was Elisa.
I didn't go to that one.
Yeah, something like a picture. Okay, you didn't go to that one. Which other one? I did it a lot, actually. I don't know. I can remember.
Let me show you the ones that I know that you will have gone to, the first and the last. So this was that's the last one.
Yeah, for sure. I went for this one.
Yeah, he was amazing.
And I had heard him before.
Oh, cool.
I don't know if you know Craig Elias. He's also
Innovation Rodeo.
Yeah, exactly. So he brought VJ in for one session sometime earlier in the year, where he talked about basically the same thing, but I liked how he tailored it to healthcare this time around.
Yeah, I mean, so I've just recently on LinkedIn posted like this is all 4 sessions from day 2.
Yeah, I attended Helen Bevan. Yeah,
we started with Helen Bevan, and then the second one I went to was this one called Mama in the Meantime, which was
I didn't go for that one.
And then I was at this one called Shaping the Future of Care Closer to Home for Older Adults.
Okay, no.
And then of course the last one with Claude Silver from VaynerMedia. It was fun.
I went for that one too.
Fun and exciting and sort of exhausting. Yeah, I like that. She said, "You better get a new song." I like that. So I like that one. It says, "You better get a new song." And then I put in "Turn It Up." And
so all these other ones, did you do all of them real time, or
yes,
you did? Wow.
Yeah. So the all out of the 8 for 2 days and 8 presentations, there was only one that I didn't do and then to deliver live. So
I have no idea how you pull this off.
I mean, it's pretty
because you have to be listening and also creating at the same time.
Yes.
Right. And not just creating, not just taking notes, actually designing.
It's
taking notes, I can probably do that. What do you call this? What do you call, does it have a name? Like creating
graphic recording or graphic recording.
Graphic recording.
Yeah. And you can do graphic recording on paper, or you can do graphic recording digitally. And this is digital, remote graphic recording. If you want to see, I'm actually just turning on yet another camera to show you my battle station here. And it'll be pretty funny actually when you see like where I'm sitting to do this. Okay, so if I transition here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to stand up out of my chair. And this is my workstation here. So I draw there. And then I have monitors there. And then another computer, but yeah.
Wow. How many screens are there?
A completely ridiculous amount of screens.
Wow.
but they excuse me here, I'll turn my camera back on, but they do serve a purpose. Each one of them, like I could geek out and talk at length. Aside from all the tools, about like people who like you may be looking for people who are not necessarily doing that out front work, but maybe doing some work sort of at the edges. I'm really been pleased with the way that Truth and Reconciliation has become something, or BIPOC work has been something that in the last 3 or 4 years has been something that has, as a result of graphic recording, become onto my radar. And Alberta Health Services has, in my estimation, for what it's worth, a really good diversity and inclusion portfolio that includes a wide variety of things, which I think is important. But it has been especially meaningful, given that challenge that I talked about before. I mean, yes, it's nice to be able to afford tires when you need them and braces when you need them, and to have some predictability. But there is something, that an energy that is around a person or a team who is living a life that they've designed. And those people who have made sacrifices in order to change gears and retool, you know, I worked for a dentist for a while who was an engineer and then went back to school. And I'll never forget, his name is Shahin Charkhandeh, and he talked about being on campus, you know, eating bologna sandwiches as an engineer, because he was now back in dental school, and how I just liked his telling of that story to express that he had taken a step to you know, to redesign his life. And so I aspired to, I mean, with five kids, it's I'm pretty hand to mouth. So it's interesting.
But have you done that in your own path? Have you had to, like, what your life right now, is this by design, your design?
It depends on which sort of length of time that I look at my life. Like, you know, a week, month, quarter, year, decade, it can feel like it isn't the life that I have designed, but in the long term, it very much is. And I'm astounded at my own journey from like, I've been sober since 1996, but me and the boys used to have a pretty dysfunctional, to say the least, definition of what constituted friendship and loyalty and brotherhood and all that. And so as a result, there was a lot of relationship carnage in and around that behavior. My heart still misses so many of my old homies, but eventually I had to, like, love myself enough to treat myself, what does Jordan Peterson say, as if I was somebody that I had the responsibility to keep safe or protect. And so I got sober, made it back to school. There was a higher power and a specific, you know, brand of religion which helped facilitate the getting some long-term goals, including going to the Alberta College of Art and Design, and then fast forward 15 years and here I am. But the pressures on all of us, on all of our relationships, is significant. And so I'm happy that my higher power helps me in that regard. And it's really rewarding. I'm trying to get back to, like, the feeling of, it's very, very rewarding. Sometimes there's money, sometimes there's not. But if I was going to talk to people about the value of art, there is a somewhat recent project that I had the opportunity to work on that I would love. I think it would be relevant to talk about on a podcast. I could even show an example of it. Yeah, how much?
It's audio.
Oh yeah. I'll show it to you.
Okay.
And then, but I could describe it. So
yeah,
the reason why is this may sound ridiculous, but like I'm thinking about, like, back in the day when I was at art school, and thinking about that you know, relationship between art and design. And I'm just looking for some slides. So this relationship between art and design, there's of course a lecture theater where I used to go to art history, and I'm thinking to myself, what would be some of the things that I would like to say to a younger version of myself about the relevance of art and the relevance of design? And amongst all of the work that I've done over the last 15 years, this one to me feels the most relevant, because actually, yeah, you know what I'm going to do? It is a video, but it's also a bunch of still images. So what this is this is a long video that was done for a couple of lawyers from the University of Alberta who work with Indigenous communities and who found themselves sharing a presentation over and over again. And the content that they were sharing is about a piece of legislation called Bill C92. And Bill C92 is, here it is right on screen, an act respecting First Nations, Inuit, and Métis children, youth, and families. So that's the long name. And this was a really challenging project to manage, and it was a challenging project to actually pull off. But
how did art help move the mission along in this particular example?
Good question. I would say the problem that they were having was that the information is complicated, it's dense, it's granular, it can be intimidating in its complexity. There's all sorts of, colonization issues where this can feel like institutional information. And so the challenge is to help the content to be approachable, memorable, and I would argue fun. Has a lot to do with making it memorable. So basically this project consisted of 45 minutes of video, and you're looking at the stills. But I would say to the art school that here is a bona fide example where art and design made a big difference, because the feedback now from the clients, from the lawyers, Corin and Hadley, who use this content, is that it actually does what they were hoping it would do. It makes the information memorable, it makes it fun, it makes it approachable. And so I like to think that visual communications can be adjunctive therapy, not like, and that's actually back to the art and design. It's like, I feel like the objective and the subjective together, I would assert, are greater than the sum of its parts. In other words, one of the problems with some of the previous work that Corin and Hadley had received from a video agency was that it wasn't substantively correct. And when I was talking to them about that problem, that they had spent a lot of money on something that they couldn't actually use. And I joked, I said, well, the agency probably won an award for it. And they were like, yeah, it did. How did you know? I'm like, well, I'm just guessing. I'm kind of jaded because that's what businesses do. We create key performance indicators and metrics that serve us and not our clients, maybe consciously or unconsciously. And it leaves a bad taste in people's mouths sometimes when, they're sort of being condescended to that, our product, our service is doing everything that we said that it would do. And it's like, I don't dispute that. But what I do dispute is the idea that you're a strategic partner of mine and that you own the liability like I do. I want you to help me not only solve the answers to the questions that we know about, but I want you to use your experience to answer questions that I don't know to ask yet. And if over time I sense that you're being disingenuous with me and you're not like thinking on my behalf, then we're done here. And so I was really happy to create images like this one that are dealing with, visually potent iconography. Like we're talking about colonization and truth and reconciliation and missing, murdered, and Indigenous women, and this whole history in Canada. So it is sensitive information. And I'm a white urban settler. That's my lived experience. And so I handle these topics with a sense of intimidation that I'm going to treat things that are sacred appropriately, and not be doing kind of a grody cultural appropriation, like decorating. So to have this work be received and to have it be used, and sure, I got a little bit of money, not as much as I'd like, but it doesn't really matter because I already spent it at Costco. The point is that the work is actually delivering and solving the problem. But I would say to people who are at the Alberta College of Art and Design or some other place, worrying about what they've chosen to study as opposed to like getting a BCom or something, I would say, no, like there are certain situations where your passion and your storytelling and your arguably subjective magic making is going to make the difference. Not everybody is nearly as compelled by a animated data set. In fact, between you and me, I was thinking about the people who I can remember from 2 days of drinking at the fire hydrant at I-4. And the people who told stories are the people whose content I remember. It's the stories that are the breadcrumbs to get back into the animated data sets.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then here I am, I'm setting myself up.
I totally agree.
If stories are good, then I would say visual stories are even better summary. Because like let me that's like Nahid on that first day.
I wish I actually recorded this.
We did. I did turn it off. I'm a bad person.
Oh, okay, you did turn it off.
Yeah, okay. You could have the video. You could post it if do anything you like with it. But I think
it's still best we have another session. This happens a lot, Like I hold this first meeting just to establish the talking point, just a bit. It's really designed to be very conversational, not a talk. It's a conversation. But it's great to just know what people are comfortable sharing, what they would like to shine the spotlight on. But a lot of times, by the time we finish talking, I'm like, this is as good as the podcast. I should have just recorded it already.
That's awesome.
But yeah, this is great. Like lots of great stuff. So yeah.
And I welcome, like I look forward to the idea that as a result of participating and having a conversation with you, I might be able to connect with more people because
for sure.
Because I feel like we collectively, I feel like there's things that we've done, things that we're doing, and things that we want to do. And it can be really hard to find the time and the space to work on your business when you're working in your business. And all of that stuff that we want to do can suffer as a result of all of the necessity that keeps us in what we are doing. And so
it's like what VJ was saying about box one.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like being stuck in box one so much so that you have no time to create the future.
Yeah, well said. Yeah, box one, box two. Yeah.
Yeah, the art of the possible. Wow, I really do have to run. So let's.
Okay.
When do you want to do the podcast itself?
When works for you? I'll let you. Why don't you email me when it works? If you've got to hop, like next week, Thursday, Friday looks good. Okay.
Yeah. Something around Thursday, Friday will be perfect. But I'll let you know what exact time. Probably noon.
Okay.
Like I use my lunch break for all of this stuff that I know my day job.
Thanks for letting me talk about myself. I didn't get a chance to come back around and find out more about you. But once I get, that piece of work for the Code and Governance Lodge was like, I get emotional about it because for the bulk of my life, it's people look at what I do and it's like, that's something that you do on the weekend. Like, that's not a real job. That's not a real thing.
So is this your job with AHS? Is that visual art? Is that your work title with AHS?
I'm a media producer is my title. I would say I'm a media producer in the human resources part of Alberta Health Services on a media and marketing team. And my manager had worked with me on a number of projects. And then when there was a position becoming available, he invited me to apply for a position. And now I have a position presently with Alberta Health Services where I do, like yesterday for I4, I worked and did that work as a part of my relationship with Alberta Health Services. I'm not making my freelance money, which is fine. AHS's culture has benefited myself and my family in many ways I could talk at length about. So anyways, but if you got to go, then how long is the podcast conversations? How long are they?
It's a minimum of 25 minutes, maximum of 1 hour.
Okay. Do you have?
There's a lot we can. Yeah.
Do you have? If there's any questions that are sort of standard questions that could sort of help me.
Well, I was taking notes as we were talking, just to give me some points to ask you questions on. Like, it's mostly your show. I'll just be listening.
My show. Awesome. Okay. Well, how do you pronounce your last name? I would like to do that correctly.
Adekanmbi.
Adekanmbi. Beautiful.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'll start with something like, just tell us a bit about yourself, about your journey, just like a quick summary of how you got here. Yeah, I'll probably start with something like that. And then, I was just taking notes from what he was saying. Something about ArtMatters. That was a conference, right?
Yeah, that
you
was
attended.
Yeah.
So we'll definitely be talking about this BillC92 because
Cool.
it's a very good example to explain how art is innovation. So that's the link I'm trying to make. That is not, art is awesome on so many levels, but it's not just about our emotional well-being. It's actually also a driver of the economy if we harness it. Right?
I think, to borrow the medical example of adjunctive therapy, therapy isn't a therapy on its own, but it takes something that was working good and makes it work better. And I think that art similarly takes things that are working good and can make them work better. Culture change, dispute resolution. It can decrease the slippage and the gap between different people's understanding of the exact same situations. There's a facilitator in Vancouver who uses graphic recording and visual facilitation. She's a lawyer, and she uses it in her facilitation and her mediation work. She uses visual facilitation as a part of her legal mediation work. So, but I have in fact fired myself from potential work when I've ascertained and thought and diagnosed and suggest to somebody, look, if you only have so much money and your expectation is that this subjective, qualitative, adjunctive therapy is going to do the job of the objective, quantitative portion of your event, I would spend the money on a videographer to get some testimonials and make sure that you've got good table captains. There's a in-person and a digital equivalent of essentially the same thing, which is the medium by which quantitative feedback is gathered from a conversation, so that you could demonstrate this is the consensus, and this is the process that we can use to demonstrate that we arrived at consensus in this way. If you happen to have some visuals, all the better. But I think sometimes people go to spend their energy on the icing instead of getting that objective cake in order first. It's like, get the objective cake baked, and then if you still got some money left in your purchase order, put some subjective magic icing on top of it. And I'm the subjective magic icing boss. I can't run a spreadsheet, and I don't build facilitation days and activities yet. But if you want somebody to listen and gather concepts, I'm all about that.
No, that's awesome.
Thanks. Okay, I should let you go.
So I'll let you know what time works next week. Probably Friday at noon will be best.
Okay.
Although I'll rather like to do this sooner than later when all these points is so fresh in my mind. But
Well, I'll send you this. I'll send you a link to this video.
Yeah, that will help. That's true. Thank you.
I'll send you this recording, and then you can do whatever you want with it.
Yes.
Post it, share it. But for me, I have too many meetings going through my head. I have to listen to them back again. Otherwise, I'm like, I can't remember what I talked about.
No, for you, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You don't have to memorize it.
Awesome.
I just need to probe with the right question, I guess. And it usually doesn't. Most times it doesn't really follow what we said we'll talk about, but at least it gets you in the headspace of the general thing you want to address and pass across. So.
Well, I once did a rant to myself when I saw the design lab in action, and I saw, oh, that's what design thinking is. It's fast, it's effective, and the design lab did it the best that I've seen it. I mean, and I had this vision. My vision was, okay, I want to have those facilitators in the Deloitte greenhouse, because that's like the best breakthrough by design place, that physical space for it. This is pre-COVID. And I want to have the energy industry pay for a meeting with environmentalists and indigenous stakeholders who are, in my opinion, both invested in land and in energy and in economy, and have this design thinking workshop where we see activities like people having to say things that they admire about their opponent. What do you admire about the the purpose of the facilitation is to build understanding, because in the short term
let's definitely talk about that.
Yeah, and in the long term, that understanding is the myelinized, pathways, a catalyst for innovation to happen when we know and we understand what's important to one another. So then when a piece of technology comes up, we'll go, oh, that actually solves not only our problem, it solves their problem. It solves the species at risk, southern mountain caribou and grizzly bear, an energy corridor, and the need for sustainability but for the most part, I feel like the innovation is thwarted by this war of indifference and a lack of understanding. It's like, because here's the thing, and this is probably one of the biggest points about my work in the last number of years, is I literally will be in one room one day listening to, say, public, private, nonprofit, social agencies, energy, indigenous, and all these rooms. And I feel like I'm 11 years old, my parents are getting divorced, and my mom's not talking to my dad. And if dad would only talk to mom, and I'd be like, well, if you guys would talk to each other, but because I'm in all these rooms and I'm listening, and so I hear the stuff that one group is saying, and inside of me, I'm like, if you guys and girls could only hear how very similar your concerns are, then this other group that you view as, I'm like, you guys feel so strongly about the exact same things. I think that if you got together, you'd be shocked at how the polarizing narratives that sell newspapers are actually just not true. Like, people who work in energy don't hate the environment, and people who work in the environment don't think that we can transition to a carbonless economy.
Wow, I would really want you to talk about this one.
Okay,
why not just dream of bringing people together? Who knows what conversation it might spark in the community? Maybe you get some clout, like, you never know, right?
Well,
so, let's do it. I really have to go now.
Okay, I'll let you go. We'll talk later.
Yeah,
bye.
Talk soon. Yeah, bye.
Thanks.
Yeah, my pleasure.